What's up, everybody? I'm Matt. Welcome to 7th Level Sound. This is my studio where I make lots of loud and aggressive heavy metal kind of music. And today I want to take a couple minutes to do something that I think is quite long overdue. I want to bring you all on a little tour around the studio, do a little bit of a behind-the-scenes look at how this place is all put together and some of the cool little toys and things and how I work in here and what we have to offer. So, with that intro out of the way, let's have a little look around. As I mentioned, this is my studio that I've been working out of for the past couple years. I started construction on this place somewhere around the beginning of the year 2020. This was a multi-year project putting this place all together. When we first moved into this space, this area was just entirely unfinished, so I got to build the entire place right from the ground up, design everything as close to my ideal as possible. Something that was multifunctional and could be used for pretty much all aspects of the recording process when working on real live instruments, guitars, bass, drums, vocals, etc. I wanted to try and build a space that was able to perform all of those functions equally well and had some versatility to it while also maybe eliminating some of the overhead that commercial studios have. Obviously, we're starting off here in the control room. This is the main studio desk behind me. This desk was a custom job that I built during the construction of this whole place. At the time that I was putting this place together, getting your hands on any kind of studio furniture, or really any furniture at all, was more than a little bit difficult, so I opted to go the build-it-yourself route and put some of my carpentry skills to work. This is a design that I came up with myself based on a few other popular studio desk pieces of this kind of smaller footprint. Now, the idea of this studio is I wanted to try and integrate as much analog gear and more unique sonic footprints into the arrangement and layout of the place as possible, while also still keeping the footprint relatively versatile and small, and try to select all of my equipment and everything wisely rather than having 1,000 pieces that most of which don't see any use at all. Alright, so here we are at the control desk, which is, of course, the heart and the backbone of this operation. I have opted for a smaller footprint controller rather than a full-size console. I really didn't need a big 32 or 64 input console to be able to run everything here. I've got it all routed pretty efficiently that really all I need is just a few faders, and I can make everything work from there. So, at the heart of the desk, everything is routed through this Pro Tools HD system, which you can see over here on my left. This takes care of all of the input routing, playback for the live room, mic preamps, compressors, signal processing, everything goes routed through the HD setup over here. It's a great unit. They're a little bit older now, but really low latency. You can do so many things in real time. Never gets bogged down even running sessions with tons of tracks in them. I can keep an eye on the levels of everything just with one glance and see if anything's clipping. I'm not constantly having to look over at a whole bunch of different VU meters on various pieces of equipment. Helps me just keep an eye on things while we're working here. All of the main playback and talkback and everything gets routed through this little drummer unit over here, the monitor controller. And of course, it's got some pretty nice routing options for being a small unit like it is. I can swap between the bigger mains or the smaller monitoring speakers. I like to try and keep things simple in this place as much as possible. My main monitors at the moment is this pair of Eve two-way near-field monitors. You can't see it, but under the desk there is a matching Eve audio subwoofer that goes with the system as well. It's not a very big subwoofer. The driver on it is not any bigger than the drivers on these monitors, but it always just feels like there's something missing if I'm not using it, so I'm sure I could learn to live without it, but I don't want to. The smaller monitors that I use, just for reference, are of course the Avantone Mix Cubes. They're there not because they sound good, but because they sound not so good. It's usually helpful to check your mixes again on the source that doesn't sound so great and make sure that if things don't sound so muddy on those little guys, they're not going to sound muddy anywhere else. My main headphones as well. I don't really do a lot of mixing on headphones, but I like having them there as a reference when I have performers over in the other room. I use the headphones to monitor their headphone mix as well, so I can adjust things as they're hearing it in real time too, knowing that if I'm blowing my own hearing up, I'm blowing theirs up as well, so helps keep them a little safer too, because I definitely don't want to kill my own ears. Yeah, so other than that, Got a few pieces of outboard compression. This is something that I've really been getting into more of late, is using more analog outboard gear, especially for stuff like compression. Plugins are awesome. The quality of plugins has gone up like exponentially since I started this, but I just find especially compressors just don't quite seem to react the same way in the plugin version as they do when you're working with the analog gear, so that's really kind of become another cornerstone of my setup, is having these outboard compressors patched in, ready to go. I don't tend to do a lot of heavy compression while tracking. There's a couple that I will throw on just for a little bit of gentle taming or sweetening as necessary, but I love having these compressors available on my buses, particularly with the routing. I can immediately grab a track from a session, send it out to a compressor and back in real time. It makes mixing a lot more fun, as well as add some extra flavors that plugins just don't quite do in the same way. I am in the process of building an analog 2-bus / mastering chain, which will be installed here on the desk at some point. Don't quite have all the pieces figured out. I've been researching a lot of options, but haven't really pulled the trigger on a few things yet. We'll have to look at that some other time. I do everything as well with analog mic preamps. This is another feature that I really wanted to build into this place when I was designing it all. So I tried to make all my selections for preamps on things that will work together really well when in concert for a big session like drums, for example, but also offer a lot of options for different flavors for when either doing things like vocals or guitar where you only have maybe 1, 2, 3 mics at the most. And of course I picked them all, that they're all units that go from being somewhat colored to very colored depending on how you dial them in, so there's always going to be a bit of character imparted to everything that we're recording here. Vibe is a big thing that I'm trying to build into this place here. And I guess I'll show as well over here. Behind me, I've got one of my racks of guitars. I like to have a few guitars on hand in different tunings rather than having maybe only 1 or 2 that I'm constantly having to retune and re-intonate depending on what kind of tuning and what kind of music I'm playing. So there's a lot of Schecters here. I've been a Schecter player for quite some time. Probably ever since I really started getting into heavy metal guitar as a teenager. They're generally affordable and they build really nice quality stuff, so those are 2 of the most important things for me here in the studio, is good quality builds at not crazy price. Okay, moving on. Alright, so here we are in the other half of the control room, or what I sometimes refer to as the listening lounge. Yeah, it's a nice cozy little spot to just sit, take a break, listen to music, drink a beer maybe. Keeping with the theme of this place, I did build most of this acoustic treatment myself as well. Yeah, it ended up being a comfortable little spot to hang out and enjoy some loud music. Alright, we're on our way to go check out the live room now. Alright, here we are in the 7th Level Sound live room. This is where all of the really fun, loud, noisy stuff happens. As you might be able to see, it's not exactly the largest live room in the world, but I've designed it to try and be as versatile as possible and be able to be customized and adjusted as needed for making sure that there's at least a little bit of a vibe going on at all times. I can kind of adjust things as I go and make the room feel bigger or smaller depending on what we're recording and what kind of sounds we're after. With stuff like these rolling gobos as well, I can kind of move things around and adjust the tone of the room as necessary. If we want things to be a little bit wider, sound a little bit more lively and open, or kind of make things a little bit tighter, then there's a lot of options. And yeah, let's have a look around. All right, so moving right along, here we are over at the equipment rack side of the live room. This is where I keep all of the stuff that gets used most often when recording. This over here specifically is what I tend to refer to as the toy rack, though it's mostly just a storage shelf for guitar pedals, DI boxes, signal processors, things like that. I'm definitely not as much of a pedal geek as a lot of other guitar players that I know out there, but I do like to have a nice little selection on hand. Over here on this side, this little shelving unit doubles as the mic locker. I don't think I'm gonna go through every single microphone on this video. That would take quite a while. If any of you guys who are mega nerds for microphones like myself actually want to see a separate video where I go through all that stuff, let me know, and I think we'll just leave it for the time being. Got a nice little selection of headphones here as well, and this is where I keep assorted lengths of wire. And yeah, that pretty much does it for this side. All right, so here I am sitting behind the house drum kit. Don't worry, I don't have any drumsticks in my hand. Nothing bad's about to happen. This area of the live room probably gets the most use out of everything, where not only is this where the drums all tend to sit when I'm doing drum recordings, but depending on what we're working on, I can also move some gobos and things around and close the space off a little bit more. This is also where I'll tend to make a little vocal booth when we're doing vocal tracking, push the drums out of the way and bring in guitar cabs and do guitar recordings back here as well. Yeah, it's probably the most intensely acoustically designed section of the studio here. It's a fairly dead section, but I've still intentionally kept a little bit of life and reflection going on here, not just with the big reflective wall behind me, but I want to make sure that depending on how I set the room up, we can either keep it really dead or give the place a little bit of life as well. So, this drum kit that I happen to be sitting behind here, this is a Mapex Orion Classic Series kit. It's quite a few years old now. It's definitely starting to show its age in some spots, but it's a really gorgeous sounding kit. I love the look of it. Piano black with the chrome hardware really kind of bridges that line between having some heavy metal aesthetic while also staying very classy at the same time. 7-ply all maple shells. We have 10 by 9 inch rack tom, 12 by 10 inch rack tom, and then the two floor toms are a 14 by 12 and a 16 by 14. A lot of good punch to them. I have one of my many snare drums here sitting in front of me, but since I have a few snares here at the studio, I think maybe we'll also save that for a future video go through. I will have to try and twist one of my drummer friends' arms into coming in and demoing these snares for you guys, because I definitely would not be able to do it justice. These studio cymbals all pretty much tend to be Sabian, generally from either the AA, AAX, or HH series. I also really like just supporting Canadian companies whenever I can as well. Really nice recording kit. I love the way it sounds. This bass drum especially has just got so much oomph when you really lay into it. Okay, let's move on once again. I think we'll go take a look at a few guitar amps. What do you say? All right, last but not least, here we are at one of my personal favorite parts of the studio tour, and that is, of course, the amp collection. We'll just take a couple minutes to go through everything here, starting off with this big beast on my right. This Gallien-Kruger was a cornerstone of my live and touring rig, and now this is my main bass amp. I love the sound of these Gallien-Krugers. They're super loud, super punchy, nice, clean and fat low end, but then if you want to go into the dirty side, it's really easy to just grab a pedal. Yeah, records really nice, tons of gain on tap. Just generally great amp. What it's sitting on top of here, I've got this Eden stack that I put together, loaded up with a few different speakers. So even for bass, there are a few options on tap for tone. The bottom, of course, is this big 15-inch Celestion speaker, which really has a lot of thump. Above it, we got the 2x10 with a couple different speakers in it as well. So depending on whether you mic up one or both, you can get some really cool blends of bass tone going on with minimal effort. Next to that, we have a few different options for aggressive high gain tones here. Some names that are going to be familiar, and also maybe have a few things on tap that are a little bit different. This is my main guitar recording cabinet here, this Engel 4x12. I've got it loaded up with 4 different speakers at the moment. I really like getting into doing blends of speakers, trying out different combinations of mics, preamps, etc. Helps add a little bit of extra unique flavor to productions. Next to that, we have a couple of my oversized 2x12 cabinets here. These come from a small builder out of California called V Boutique Guitar Cabs. I picked up that 2x12 horizontal first, and then I liked it so much that I decided I needed another one, so I actually got a hold of the builder and had them custom make this vertical slant 2x12 for me here. Just absolutely love the look of these things. Again, adds a little bit of that kind of combination of classy and heavy metal aesthetics. I like having stuff on hand that's a little bit different than what a lot of people would bring in. It can be lots of fun. See what kind of ideas and tones you can come up with. Okay, so I think that's pretty much going to wrap it up for a little behind-the-scenes studio tour here. Thank you all for joining me on this little excursion, and hopefully I covered enough of the nerdy stuff without going way too rambly and long. I've been Matt. This has been 7th Level Sound. Catch you guys in the next video. Till then, keep making noise, stay heavy, stay loud, stay safe. Cheers, guys.